This week, you might want to grab a snack before getting stuck into the episode. Our guest is Ryan Panchoo, the founder and CEO of Borough 22, which makes the most mouth-watering donuts, and they're gluten-free and vegan too. He's going to tell us all about how he went from redundancy to starting his own business, and explains how to turn your home kitchen into a commercial powerhouse. I'm Bex Calendar, and this, of course, is Sound Advice. Get year one in business right. Brought to you by Sage. Ryan, thank you so much for coming and taking time out of your hectic donut schedule to talk to us. How are you doing today?
Yeah, really well. Just finished another week of all things donuts, so I'm feeling a little bit relieved now. Just relaxed. I can chill now.
What? So you're baking until Wednesday, and then they all go out for the weekend, or what's the structure?
Yeah, that's right. So we process all of our orders on a weekly basis, and it's always we bake them on a day, and then they're delivered the next day. So the earliest anyone could ever get a delivery from us, because our couriers don't work on a Sunday, is Tuesday. We'll bake them on Monday, they'll collect on Monday and deliver them on Tuesday, and then that carries on. We stop on Wednesday for delivery on Thursday, just because if there's any issues at all and we were to have them delivered on a Friday and they got delayed, it meant that they wouldn't reach the customer until Monday. So it just saves a lot of anxiety, a lot of emails, phone calls, and we just cut it off at that point. And do it that way. It works a lot better, especially when you get up to the rush, like the end of the year or bank holidays, things like that. It just works out a lot better.
And I know firsthand that you are insanely busy, because I tried to sneak onto your website and buy some donuts, and I was planning to come onto the call and scoff one and be like, I'm here with your donuts. And there was a waiting list of 2 weeks or something. Well, not quite 2 weeks, but I was like, wow, that's amazing that you've got you completely full of orders for that amount of time. So you're flying.
Yeah, it's just mad. It's really just gone crazy. And just trying to give people what they want, We've increased the amount of orders we do a day. Obviously, I don't want to put too much pressure on anyone working here. I still want it to be quite a relaxed environment, because I feel that produces the best results. But yeah, we're maxed out. I think we could maybe push it further, as we're starting to work in unison more, coordinating more. But yeah, it's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. I'm just really, really grateful to have that amount of orders, that amount of people coming and ordering from our website is fantastic.
So you're crazy busy. This is probably a good point to discuss how you even ended up launching this business, because you came at this from a personal angle. So tell us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. It was my wife. She had a dairy intolerance and a gluten intolerance for as long as I've known her. And then my children, when they were both born, we found out very shortly afterwards that they had dairy intolerances. Funnily enough, my wife's dairy intolerance went through both pregnancies. She could eat all the dairy, and she did. She ate all the dairy. But we found out very quickly afterwards that the children couldn't take it, and then she reverted back as well. We've always been used to sort of buying free from products for Medica. And then as the children got older, Medica was developing an online magazine called The London Mother. So it was all things to do with parenting in London. And she would get invited to these events. Like the one I always use as an example is advanced screening for a film. So we go up to town, it'd be a really exciting event before the film would come out officially. And they'd have loads of balloon animals, face painting, and loads of treats for the kids to eat. It was first thing in the morning. So that sugar high first thing in the morning. But my kids couldn't eat anything. So it was really just used to really frustrate me, especially as theirs was just a dairy allergy. And I thought, dairy is so easy to compensate for or to substitute. And then when we were uptown, so afterwards we try and go out and get something for everyone to eat, like a nice little treat. And there was nothing that was both dairy free and gluten free, and that used to frustrate me. It used to really irk me that they didn't have anything available. And if they did, on the rare occasions that they did, the quality just wasn't good at all. So that's what kind of pushed me into exploring. Well, what could I make for them? I wasn't new to baking. I dabbled in it before. And I just naively thought it can't be that difficult, really, to make something that they could get excited about. And that's kind of what pushed me into baking, not really starting a business, but baking for them just to fulfill their needs.
And how tricky was it to make a gluten-free, dairy-free donut that tasted really good? Tell me about the recipes that you tried. How did you crack that?
Well, I did it in stages. So the first one is dairy-free, which was, to be fair, is fairly easy to replicate. A standard bake with a dairy-free break. So was doing that, was making cupcakes, was the cupcake boom. So you had Hummingbird and Primrose Bakery. Everyone was doing them. They were everywhere. So I was making little cupcakes for them. And then, my wife still couldn't eat them because they had gluten in them. So I was like, okay, let's sort of try and do something gluten-free for her. And that was really difficult. Like, I thought you could just go pick up Dove's flour, gluten-free blend, and just substitute it, and it just does not work like that at all. So I had cakes that would just collapse when they came out of the oven, or you'd eat them and they go to sort of that wet sand consistency in your mouth. So it just wasn't good at all. So it was really tricky to try and get the balance between all the different ingredients that you would use, and not just rely on something that was off the shelf. It would work in certain products, maybe cookies, stuff that, would sort of harden up naturally. But cakes, you're not supposed to have biscuit cakes.
Today we have launched the
Borough 22 biscuit cake. Exactly. So it was really difficult. A lot of errors during the trials. And kids are brutally honest. So my kids would tell me in no uncertain terms that this is disgusting. I hate it. I hate you, Dad. So why have you made me eat this? Pelting me with, rock hard cakes. And it was just being obsessed, really, having that tenacity, really trying to perfect the recipe. Okay, this works if I add this ingredient in this amount. Let me tweak something else. Let me tweak the additives that we've put in. Discovering things like xanthan gum. Like, I didn't have a clue what xanthan gum was before I started doing sort of gluten-free baking. And understanding how that works and what that does, what the different ingredients will do to the bake, like the chemical reaction and what have you, in order to get that final end result. And it was just trying everything. So cakes, cookies, brownies. But then I discovered quickly that everybody does a gluten-free brownie. It's like as common as bananas. So then just okay, what is something that someone who's gluten-free, they obviously can't eat things that are sort of bread-based, pastries, that kind of thing. What's something that they would really miss? I just thought donuts. Let's try and make a donut. And that's sort of what led me to perfecting that recipe and just finally nailing it and giving the kids something that they really, really enjoyed.
But it's quite a leap from making something for your kids and for your wife that they'll enjoy to then thinking, I'll take this to the masses. How did you make that leap?
Kicking and screaming. So I'm not, as self-confessed, I'm not an entrepreneur at heart. Like, that is my wife. That's her nature. She's always had that tenacity, that sort of drive. And she basically gave me an ultimatum because the ingredients, they weren't hard. They were very hard to sort of come by at that stage. So I was ordering stuff from Amazon, stuff would come from America, all these weird and wonderful ingredients that now you find in your local co-op. But at that stage, they didn't have that. So she was like, you're spending all this money on ingredients. You'd make these wonderful creations, but fairly short shelf life. We can't eat all of them, and you end up giving them away. Like, stop giving them away. Like, sell them. Like, I've never seen anything like this in all my escapades to try and find that perfect gluten-free, dairy-free product. I've never seen anything like this. And my sister-in-law, who's got very similar allergies to my wife, she said the same thing. She's just like, give it away or just stop making it. Sell it or stop making it. You need to make some money, but at least to cover the cost of the ingredients. So very reluctantly went and ordered 1,000 business cards. Like, spent the whole day on my iPad designing the logo and all that stuff. Ordered the business cards, took loads of photos. And then it's like, right, what do I do now? I don't know if it was, I was expecting the phone to start ringing or emails to start flying in for people to know that I exist. So I just started using social media. So started with Facebook. Went and found like some celiac groups. That was my main target, people who were gluten-free. The celiac group, Celiacs in London, Celiacs Eat Out. I think there's a Celiac UK group on Facebook as well. And just started very stealthily just working it into the conversation. It wasn't like an aggressive sell. Just asking questions, having conversations, and just dropping, I've made these, would you be interested in trying them? And it sort of like blew up from there. And then that's where I discovered about gluten-free brownies. Like, everybody makes gluten-free brownies. Have you got anything else? People would ask. And I said, well, I've got these donuts that I've made them. They were like, what? Donuts? I posted a picture, and then literally just my phone was ringing all night. Like, notifications were coming through all evening. It just went mental. So I was like, okay, I think I'm onto something here. And then it was like, okay, right, we've got this product, short shelf life. How can I get it out to people? And that's sort of where it was conceived, where the business really sort of took off and started to blossom into what it is today, really.
But you were working at the time, right? So you had to sort of make a transition from being employed to then turning this into your full-time business. How did that come about? Share that story.
Yeah, so it was very much something I would do in the evenings, occasionally on the weekends, and just try to fit it around work. I was very fortunate at the job that I had. You sort of managed yourself. You managed your own time. So yeah, just trying to make it work and I was very open and honest with people. And I said, look, this is what I do. I'm not a baker. I'm not trained. I've made this for my family. They really enjoyed it. I think you'll enjoy it. I think it's something that's missing in the marketplace. I've not seen anything like it. But here's when I can deliver it to you. I think at that stage, I was working 4 days a week. So I'd use that day off in the week to sort of do all the orders. And I would hand deliver them around London. Ludicrous now thinking about it. It's just like bonkers, crazy idea. But I guess it's those kind of things that really make you stand out. And I loved it, to be fair, because you'd meet so many people, you'd hear their stories, they'd be really appreciative, and it would just continue to feed that desire, that drive to sort of push this forward and to hurdle the next obstacle that sort of comes up or came up. And yeah, just sort of doing it nights, weekends, slowly building it up. And then sort of got into Selfridges, which again was through social media. And that's sort of where I kind of had to just fix up, really, just be really organised, really structured in order to make that work. That wasn't an easy transition at all. It was very, very steep learning curve. Very, very crazy as to how I even got in front of a buyer at Selfridges in the first place. But yeah, that is sort of when I had to sort of get more organised, use my project management skills that I had built up in my previous job and sort of apply that to this, really. And it got to a stage, I was always like, right, in the next 12 months, I'm gonna make the transition, I'm gonna leave. And I would say that every month. But then it got to a stage where they were making my role redundant. And it was like, okay. Now, I remember having a conversation with Medica and just being like, it's like now or never. Like, do I do this? Or I had another job opportunity. I had a job waiting for me, doing similar project management to what I was doing before. And it was just like, do I take the leap or do I go down the path that's familiar to me? And yeah, she kind of pushed me. The guy who actually offered me the job, he knew about what I was doing as well. And he kind of pushed me as well to make that transition and to do it full time.
That's amazing that you had so much support around you, because often when people have a business idea, the people the closest to them are like, no, that's risky. But you had the opposite experience, which is amazing. You actually got the confidence to do it from everyone believing in you. That must have felt amazing to have that full backing from everyone around you.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's you have the biggest like conflict with yourself. I guess a bit of imposter syndrome comes into it as well. And I very much just saw it as me being like a hamster on a wheel. Once I get on that wheel, once I let this go, I'm just going to have to keep going. There's not going to be a chance to stop. And that's how I saw it. It wasn't like that. But yeah, to have those people around you sort of pushing you, believing in your product, believing in you, your work ethic as well. You are the right person to do this. You can make this work. Was amazing. And in one way, it's like Medica was brilliant for pushing me to do that. But she's held me back in so many other ways. Like so many other decisions, you want to just jump in feet first. Yeah, I'll do this, I'll do that. Especially when I made the transition from part-time to full-time. You kind of lose that safety net, don't you? That income coming in, that steady income. You try and recreate that. And you get to a stage where you're almost saying yes there, you'll do anything, like any job that comes your way. And she's sort of been the voice of reason, saying, no, don't do that, Ryan, it's a mistake, sort of holding me back. And it saved me from a lot of pain, but at the same time probably been the biggest champion as well.
I definitely want to hear more about the things that you've said no to, because that can be really crucial in the first few years of starting a business. Yeah. But I want to talk about Selfridges, because I know people listening will think it's really hard to get in front of a buyer at Selfridges, one of the most well-known high-end department stores, known the world over. So you've got to tell us that story.
Yeah, it's just mad. Like, even when I tell it now, like, this, my cheeks, the smile on my face, you can probably hear it in my voice. It's just mad how it came about. So it was 2015. I'd launched the business in October 2014, and now it was I think it was February 2015, and Selfridges had like a celiac awareness week in their food hall. So they had this whole aisle, I think, dedicated to gluten-free foods. And a lady who I've not met to this day, we connected on Instagram. I think we live near to each other in South East London. And we had somehow connected on Instagram through an event that we had both gone to, or a market that we had both gone to, a food market. And she just said, look, you need to get this guy in your stores, Selfridges. And they were like, yeah, sure. If he's willing, we're always looking for new suppliers. And of course, this is all coming through me looking at my phone in real time, mouth just on the floor, just like, what? Then I was like feeling like cheeky chappy, and I was like, okay, if you send me the details, just slide into my DM, send the details through, and I'll get some samples across to you. And then lo and behold, about half an hour later, ping, and it was the details of the buyer, like where to go. And I was like, oh my God. I remember coming upstairs and just showing, not even saying anything, I was just smiling and just showing my dick on the phone. She was like, what? She couldn't believe it. And then, I just remember everything. Like, I offered them pretty much the world. They said you can have any flavour, any quantities, which very quickly renegotiated. But made the samples up. I remember going, it was a beautiful sunny day. I met one of the, the doormen. And I got him to take a picture with the donuts. He was upset that none was for him. I still got that on my feed, actually. It's on my Instagram feed. And then just going up in the lifts, just remember, and then sitting in this room, like the reception room for the offices upstairs. And I met my buyer, Katie. She came to meet me. And they were just super cool. And again, honesty, like, this is not what I do. I remember saying to her, I don't know how I'm sat in front of you now in your offices, but I want to make this work. I would love to sell in Selfridges, but I need your help. Like, this is the product. See what you think about it. And I've always kind of been like that. I never really oversold myself or really ever sold myself. I've just said, see what you think about it. Just give me your honest feedback. And if you like it, we can discuss it further. So when maybe a few days, maybe even that week, I'd posted something on my Instagram, and I think it's on my feed again, and Selfridges commented on my post, Selfridges Foods, like, yeah, we've had them, watch this space or something like that with the eye emoji, and I was just running around the house like Macaulay Culkin, like, and then it was, and like I say, it was such a steep learning curve. Like, they took me from, oh man, there's so many stories. Like, the first order I got, I took in on the train. Bear in mind that Selfridges open. I'm so Caribbean. Bear in mind that Selfridges open at 9:30 to the public to peruse, and then I think you can sell at 10. So I got the train from where I am in South East London. I think it was like minutes to 9. Taking them on the train, like carrying these donuts on the train, on the underground, and handing them to Katie, like over the counter, more or less. And she's like, no, you can't do this. You need to go in through the loading bay. And then I was taking them to the security hut for the next few orders. But they just helped me through. They just got me organised, taught me about, having a copy of what you've given to them, so that you've got that for your records. It gets stamped, it gets signed, having duplicate copies of the PO, wearing a high vis to go down, all of those things, just to help me to get up to a level so that they could represent me, or I could represent them in the best way possible. And they sent an auditor to come and audit my kitchen again. And you think someone's coming to order your kitchen, you're like, literally your heart is in your mouth. But it's, they're coming really just to see how they can help you. And that's the best way I could put it, really. Even your local environmental health officer, when they come to visit you, they're just trying to see how they can help you get up to a standard whereby you're going to protect yourself and anyone that is going to have your product. And it just meant that by getting up to that standard, it meant that everywhere that I approached after that, people were just like, wow, okay, he's got all his documentation. He's given me this. I haven't even asked for this, like the allergen sheets, the ingredient information, cost pricing, minimum order quantity. All of this stuff is in like a pack, and I present it to people. And I think that's what's got me in a lot of places following that, because they'd raised the bar so much for me and gave me so much help. So hats off to Selfridges. Love them to bits.
Oh, it's an amazing story. And what was the jump in terms of how many donuts you were making before the Selfridges deal and then after?
Oh, it was not many. Maybe 3 or 4 orders a week, let's say. Just really, really small. Bear in mind, I'm still working part-time. I'm not using it. I haven't, to this day, actually, used any form of PR agency or done any kind of marketing. It's all just been on social media. I had done like a donut rally where I went out to Bristol. I travelled along the M4 to Bristol and did stops like Reading, Chippenham, Bath. I'm not doing it in order. Swindon, Bristol, and delivered donuts along the way. Nightmare, absolute nightmare. I said I'll never do it again. I would do that again. But yeah, the first Selfridges order, I think they said they were going to order like maybe 6 of each flavour. And I think I'd given them 6 flavours to choose from. And I think the first order, I think it was maybe 36 of each flavour. So I'd never made quantities, like that many quantities. And it's just everything, like how do I get this up there? Like I was going to take them in just the cupcake boxes that I was using to transport the donuts. So yeah, it was heart and mouth. But I'll tell you what, Rebecca, going into the store, like delivering that first day, waiting outside for half an hour until the store opened, and then going back in and seeing them in store, it's like the proudest. It's just, my feet were not on the ground. I was like hovering everywhere. It was just amazing to see that. And it's just, like I said, everything was like a steep learning curve. So the numbers went up, they sold out, had to deliver more. So I think that I delivered the first orders on a Thursday, then delivered on a Saturday. And then they contacted me and said, can we have more for because it was bank holiday Monday in August, the last bank holiday in August. Can we have more for Monday? So yeah, it just blew me away. And it never really kind of dropped below that. It was at that standard and just kept increasing. And yeah, before long, they were sort of asking, can you supply Manchester and Birmingham as well?
I feel like I'm there standing next to you with that big box of donuts. It's such an amazing story. But I want to go back a bit. I definitely want to hear more about how you commercialised your kitchen. I think that's going to be really fascinating. But there seems to be a kind of social media voice that you've really cracked. Because when Selfridges saw you on Instagram, they must have looked through your posts, and something about the way that you interact with your audience, the pictures that you chose, must have given them confidence as well. And I'm just really curious whether you know sort of what you've been doing right. Is it just that donuts, because they look so delicious, that they're an easy sell? How have you made that online social media brand so powerful?
Well, I think that a large part of it is that they're so photogenic. And I think at the time, there was nothing really like it out there. No one doing the sort of flavours that I was doing. And I think there was one other company that existed. But the donuts was a product amongst many other products that they did. But no one was doing this dedicated. So I think that helped a lot. The fact that they tasted good as well. They've been child tested. Like my kids approved them. That helped a lot as well. And sort of one of the goals I always had was to make something that my kids would get excited about and that their friends would get excited about. So like if, for example, they went for a party at their friend's house, it wouldn't be, oh, here's my son's box of donuts that are just for him because, he's got allergies. No, this is for my son and his friends, or my daughter and her friends. And everybody would, be scrambling to get one of these donuts. That was always the main aim. And I kind of know what it's like So through my wife, excuse me. So through my wife, through my children, I know what the feeling is like to be somewhere and, it's horrible. Like, you're a kid, you like sweet things, or you're an adult, you like sweet things, and you're in a place where there's so much sweet things and you can't have any of it. It's like torturous. So knowing that feeling, and knowing the feeling of finding or discovering something, there's quite a few memes on it actually. When you discover something and it's gluten-free, like kids just like going mental. When you finally discover that something, you do get that excitement. And I guess just talking to people in their language as well, coming from experience, like knowing how hard it was. It's so much better now. But back then, sort of 2012, I think it was 2013, knowing how hard it was to find something, and then finally releasing these donuts 2015, 2014, having them on the market, just reassuring people, like, no, this is not a tick in the box exercise. I haven't just made these because, we want to capitalize, we want to make loads of money. We've made these because they're for my family. I love my family. I don't want to see them ill. I want them to have something nice that they can get excited about. And talking to other people on that level, just being reassuring and really taking the time to, if anybody had asked questions, especially initially, it's a bit more difficult now, but initially, if anyone had asked questions, taking the time to respond to them, like personally, email me directly. In some cases, if it was too complicated, I had loads of questions. Here's my number. Let's have a conversation. Give me a phone call. And anyone that ever commented, just being grateful, engaging with them, replying to each individual comment. It's not something that I consciously realised that I was doing. I just did it because I thought, well, if someone's taken the time to do that, then I'll take the time to respond. But someone actually pointed it out to me and said, it's amazing that you actually do that. You respond to all of these people. And I think that's helped. So people, I'm guessing, because I've never been on the other end, but people have been along the journey with me. Like, I've taken them along this journey. Like, you see how excited I get when I talk about Selfridges for the first time. Like, they were there with me. You saw that through social media. And then just trying to take the best shots of the donuts as possible, which is not that difficult because they are so photogenic. And yeah, I guess really that is just trying to maintain or have like an honest reflection of myself. So the business, Borough 22, it is me. I am the business. This is how I want people to feel. And I want you to be reassured. It's a trick that I've seen a couple of people do actually. So one person in particular was Emma Bunton. So we met Emma Bunton from the Spice Girls through Medika's The London Mother. And she has this amazing ability. So she's, super celebrity. Everyone knows who she is. But she has this amazing ability. When she's engaging with you, she makes you feel like you are the only person in that room. And I'm not seeing many people who can do that, especially in that sort of limelight. But it just makes a massive difference. And I think with engaging with people through social media, I want them to feel like you're having a one-to-one conversation with me. And, I've spoken to people's kids. We did like kid workshops, parents, adults, mums, and the beautiful thing about this is there's no discrimination. Like, anyone can be gluten-free. Anyone can be dairy intolerant. Anyone can be affected or have celiac disease. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter about your age, your gender, whatever. So just trying to have all these one-to-one conversations with people, get them involved, make them feel reassured. Like, I've listened to what they've said and provided feedback based on that. I think that's why it has worked. And that's just a guess. A very, very long guess. Because, yeah.
No, that's all brilliant advice, though. Listening, and I like the idea about the kid test because you're so right. They don't lie. They give it to you straight. So many great points in there. So did you, based on listening to your customers, have you made any big tweaks to your recipes or to the flavours that you offer? Have there been any kind of back and forth communications that have ended up being business wins?
Yeah, so I think initially, the biggest sort of change initially was the donuts were gluten-free and tweaked them then to be vegan. So it was gluten-free, but I'd use salted caramel, like actual salted caramel, dairy salted caramel on some of the toppings. And then there'd be other toppings that didn't have dairy in them. I'd use Nutella on some of the donuts as well. But then it was more frustration for me, really, because one of the questions that I would keep getting asked would be, okay, which ones are vegan? Which ones are gluten-free? And I just got fed up with saying, all right, you can have this one, this one, this one. So I just tweaked it. I just said, right, very early on, and I think it was the second iteration into Selfridges, because I did a first stint, but it just got too much, and I had to come out for a few months. So it came out in February 2016 and went back in October 2016. And when I went back, everything was gluten-free and vegan off the bat. That was the standards. Everything has to be gluten-free and vegan at the very least. So that was a major tweak. And that was good because it was just before like the big vegan boom. I think that hit London, and you've now seen it spread out across the country. And it was brilliant because there's one example that I remember so clearly as well. I was doing a tasting in Selfridges in Manchester, and a lady had come into the store, and I was just, offering out like samples of donuts and just saying, oh, they're oven baked donuts. They're baked donuts. I wasn't saying they're gluten free. I wasn't saying they're vegan. Just saying they're oven baked donuts. So I found that worked better. People would be more inclined to try. If you say they're vegan, or I'm not vegan. It's like, no, that doesn't mean that. It means you can have them. It's okay. You'll be fine. And this lady came up and she goes, oh, thank you, but I'm vegan. I can't have them. And I was like, well, actually, you know what? These are vegan. And she goes, oh my goodness, you're joking. And she had headphones in. She took them out. She's like, oh my goodness, you're joking. She goes, oh, I'm gluten free as well. And I was like, you're not going to believe this. I'm not just saying this, just go wait to try them. They're gluten-free and vegan. Like, all my donuts are gluten-free and vegan. They're sold here in Selfridges. And she was like, what? Like, she stopped, she held her chest, she tasted one, and she started to cry. I was like, oh, please don't cry. Please. Don't cry. You're going to drive these customers away. Don't cry.
You're making this up. She cried.
Yeah, she cried. Yeah, I'm not joking. In Selfridges, Manchester, I cried. I think she would have cried anyway, regardless of what they tasted like. Perhaps, I don't know. But just the fact that it was, because it's quite niche. To be vegan, okay, yeah, lots of things were vegan. But to be vegan and gluten-free, it was quite a niche market. So yeah, that was a good decision. And I'm glad that I chose to do that, just because it saved me repeating the same thing over and over again. But it just opened it up to more people. And you could hit both camps, vegan and gluten-free, and combined as well. So that was one of the major changes. So one of the other ones was to try and really tweak the recipe so I could provide a low FODMAP alternative. Now, please don't ask me what FODMAP stands for. Low, I can explain low, but FODMAP, forget about it. But it's almost like the way I understand it, in very, very much layman's terms, it's like almost like a resetting diet. So it resets your digestive system. You cut out a lot of stuff. So my wife has done it, and it can be quite a really depressing time. So I think you do it for a period of 6 weeks at least. You can do it longer than that. And some people are just completely low FODMAP. They can't come off the diet. They need to stay on it for health reasons. But it kind of resets your digestive system. And then, as I understand it, you introduce certain food groups. So you might introduce a bit of gluten, or a bit of dairy, or a bit of this and that, just to see how your body reacts. You record it in the diary. So I found out, like, looking through the recipe, like the book that she had, which listed all the ingredients that were low FODMAP, all the ones that were medium, all the ones that were high. I found out if I could tweak the recipe ever so slightly and make it low FODMAP, and it would still work. It still tasted not too dissimilar to the standard donuts that I was making. So I did that as an offering as well. And I had a lot of people, especially throughout lockdown actually, just really grateful that they exist. Because again, it's such a niche market. But in terms of a product offering, it's still, if everyone ordered low FODMAP donuts, I'd be set for the year, even though it's such a small market. But to have that exist, to have someone to think about someone who's on that diet and make something like a treat that they can have. And when I say like no salt, it's really, really, really back to basics. But to be able to have something like this is a real treat. So that was another little tweak that I did, which I think has sort of stood me apart from other people and something that people have really taken to as well.
That's very cool. Ryan, I want to talk about your kitchen, because I'm sure listeners will be thinking, is he still based in his kitchen? How did he make his kitchen capable of making all these donuts, especially when you're dealing with these enormous brands? So how did you make that happen?
Well, again, I sort of went through the process. If you want to start a food business, you contact your local environmental health officer and they will come and audit. You give them notice, they will come and audit your kitchen. And yeah, it is, I'm not going to lie, it's probably one of the most nerve-wracking things you could ever think of. But like, they're coming to protect you. They're doing a service for you. Like, I think you just have, I had this preconceived notion they're coming to shut me down. There's going to be all this gaffer tape across the kitchen door. I'm not even going to be allowed in it. But, they're most of the time, well, hopefully not most of the time, but, they're dealing with people who have much bigger problems than a domestic kitchen. So they came, had a look, told them what I was planning to do. And it was very much using a domestic kitchen setup. I was using a domestic oven. I just bought the ingredients, put them in a cupboard sort of away from all the other ingredients. Bearing in mind that, my wife is gluten-free, the kids are dairy-free, well, all three of them are dairy-free. So we didn't have a lot of allergens in our house anyway, but kept the ingredients separate. They would only come out when I had orders to make. And that was it, basically, starting from day one. That's all I needed to do, because it was an allergen-friendly business. You didn't have to worry about things like temperatures of meat or temperatures of dairy products, etc. You didn't have to worry about so many things that other people would have to worry about if they're operating a standard food business. So it made it very, very easy. And like I said, they're coming to help you. I think the only pointer I had, I've got a cat. We rarely see him. It's like a teenager. He treats the house like a hotel. But we let him in the kitchen, so I had to get him out of the kitchen. He's never forgiven us. I think he loved it there. He had his own spot. I think that's why his attitude stinks to this day, actually. But yeah, we got him out of the kitchen. That was the only real change I had to make. 5 stars from them, and sort of away you go. And it's just, as the business has grown, I bought a mixer. I was doing everything by hand, and I don't know why. I was just like, no, I've got to keep going by hand until my arms are falling off. Yeah, pretty much. It was like Popeye after the spinach. But I had to make sure I swapped hands just to get it even, so I wasn't all lopsided. But yeah, I bought a mixer a couple years in to try to do a lot of the hard work. And it's such a basic recipe. It's dry ingredients, wet ingredients mixed together, left to have a chemical romance, and then you bake it, top it, box it, and away you go in a very, very basic terms. But just as the orders came in and they were getting bigger and we were in more and more shops, just then buying bigger equipment. So I bought a commercial mixer. It's on a stand. It's in my kitchen. It can tuck away in that little corner where all the ingredients are. Just about open the door, people can get in. One of the biggest talking points to this day was the commercial freezer that I bought that hums away nicely at night. It did not sound that loud on the internet, admittedly, but we have to close the kitchen door and our bedroom door and it's okay. But yeah, just along the way. And I think some of that stuff happened while I was still at work. So, instead of spending all your bonus money at the end of the year on the Mr. Porter sale, you'd buy ingredients in bulk, or you'd buy a large piece of equipment. But with the baking that I was doing, there wasn't too many. So it was literally a commercial oven, like the most basic commercial oven that you can get on the market, a commercial mixer, and then just trays to bake, spatulas, that kind of small equipment, mixing bowls. They got larger and larger and larger. And just sort of grew as the business grew. So again, if you speak to my wife, a lot of that stuff I would have bought like outright, like I would have been in the premises right now. But it's just like, no, you don't need to do that yet. Just hold fire, take a deep breath, just think about it. You've got no overheads in your house. So let's try and stay here as much as possible. And, we were looking to actually build something in our garden. That's always been the goal for a number of years. But just the way the business has developed, we had a chat again at the start of this year, or earlier this month actually. And I think I'm going to stay in the kitchen for the next couple of years at least. There's no reason for me to move. It works so well. Just working in between everyone while the kids are at school, although they're being homeschooled now, slightly different. But while they're at school, the kitchen's very relatively free. Everyone just makes their lunch, a packed lunch in the morning, so they don't have to come in, so we can just get on and work. And again, now, it's only 3 days a week. Before, it was maybe 5 days a week. But just working around that, my family have been very forgiving as well. When you drop the metal bowl in the middle of the night, not the plastic one, it has to be the metal one, right? But yeah, they've been very forgiving. And yeah, just growing as the business has grown. So not rushing out and buying everything, not thinking, oh, right, I have to buy a premises. Just being really cautious about every sort of step of the way, and try to sort of keep the cost down wherever I can.
But do you have to keep the kitchen spotless all the time? And how do you do that when you've got kids?
Yeah, so the kids are like, I've trained them, I've drilled them. They're like military soldiers now. So they come in on their hands. They're able to use their... No, I'm not joking. So they just work. They know. They just work around. And they are very allergen aware. And yeah, you do have to keep it spotless. But there's set times for when I do the work. Even before, like I've made changes recently, but even before, when I was working through the middle of the night, they'd have dinner, everything would be washed down, and you start work. And that process wouldn't stop until everything is packed up, cleaned, and I'm away and off doing deliveries. Or if it's, mail orders during the week, the kids will come and have their breakfast, everybody's out of the kitchen by 9. Work starts at 9, runs through till 3. Everything's packed up, cleaned down. So it's just getting into that routine, that habit. And my kitchen's probably no cleaner than your kitchen, to be fair. But it's just making sure that you get into the habit, the process of doing these things, and it's fine. Just applying a bit of common sense, really. So yeah, from that point of view, it's not that much of an issue. Well, it hasn't been an issue for me.
And what are your ambitions for the business? Because you mentioned that you're part-time now, you were more full-time before. What do you want from Borough 22, and what are the things that you're trying to balance alongside your ambitions for the business?
So I'm trying to balance sort of my time, and that's always been the goal from the onset, really. All right, if I'm going to work for myself, then I'm my boss. I'm my own boss, so I decide what I do and what I don't do. But then there's been things that have happened along the way which have thrown me off course. So, for example, getting made redundant and thinking you have to accept every job that comes your way in order to continue to pay your mortgage and provide for your family, that regular income that was coming in. With COVID-19 as well, the way the business changed, it's almost it sort of tilted on its axis kind of thing, and then doing things in a different way, and trying to balance sort of wholesale and online orders. But going forward, the business model that I've got at the moment is just trying to build that up. So build up the online sales. So we've capped the amount of orders that we do every day to max us out. But, when things open up, maybe getting in a couple of extra people and building it even more. And then looking to maybe build something in the garden. I would like to purchase something. I wouldn't like to rent anything. I'd like to purchase something because I feel like the business is built on quite a solid foundation, and there's a need for it, and that's been shown through, you know, the amount of orders that we're getting through at the moment. So yeah, and just grow that business model, and then perhaps, who knows? I don't really think that too far in advance, but maybe, you know, have a same operation maybe in the north or in the Midlands, just so it means people get a better service and it's more accessible to people in those areas. Yeah, so I think that's what I want going forward for the future. I've taken a step back from actual baking now, which has been a long-term goal, and it's amazing, absolutely amazing, and I'm slowly readjusting to that now. So with more time, like trying to fill it in a structured way and drive towards certain goals, having that focus in order to get certain things done in order to grow the business. But yeah, once that's sorted, I remember actually watching, I think it was Ramsay's Kitchen Nightmares, and he said that he didn't get his second restaurant until everything in the first restaurant was shipshape. And it was consistent for, I don't know if he said a few months or maybe even a year or two. Then he opened his second one. So, and that's kind of always stuck in the back of my mind. I want everything to work perfectly here. And it's starting to, which is really exciting. So then I can just be a case of, I don't know if it would necessarily be a franchise, but just say to someone, like, here's the Borough 22 pack. This is how you recreate this now. Go and do that in the Midlands, or go and do that in the North. Or further afield, who knows.
So do you have staff then? Do they come to your house and bake in your kitchen? And how did that all change during the pandemic? Yes,
I do. So I've got two ladies that work with me at the moment. And as I say, they've just completely taken over the baking now. They're much better than me. So they produce wonderful, beautiful creations. And yeah, so that was how it worked before the pandemic. Obviously, when the pandemic hit, it just stopped everything. So I was still working, and I would work with one other person. And then when the pandemic hit, it was just me. And it sort of continued for most of that year. And I think it was only after we got out of lockdown 1, I was desperate to get, you know, this employee back in. She was desperate to work. So I got her back in and started working again. And it has been tricky, but it's been manageable, like just about manageable. But I know I didn't want to continue 2021 as what I did in 2020. It was just, I just wasn't looking forward to continuing in that same vein. I knew something had to change, which is why I decided to sort of take a step back in order for them to just continue with the baking and me to continue with sort of growing the business.
Because you just felt you were too much in the weeds. You were doing all the baking. You were kind of just stuck with your hands in the bowl and not thinking about the vision and the strategy. And
yeah, exactly. It was like bake, admin, prep, bake, and that was just that continuous cycle. You know, if I went to bed and set my alarm on my phone and it said you're going to get up with if it was anything with a 5 hours or less, I'd be good. If it was anything underneath that, it would have a real like psychological and physical impact on the way I started my day. I was thinking, I don't want to be going to bed be happy or grateful that I've got 5 hours sleep. I can't continue like that. So yeah, it's taking a step back, allowing them to get on it. And they joke with me now because I'll still go into the kitchen every morning and like just have a look and see and maybe like glaze a donut, and they're like, no, go. Like, please just leave this to us. It's become this running joke now. But I don't know. Part of it is me feeling bad. It's like, no, I need to be in there. I need to be in the trenches, getting stuff done and doing the physical. Whereas now, slowly, starting to appreciate, actually, this is something that they enjoy doing. They say they enjoy, you know, they're making something beautiful every day that they're working here. And they enjoy that. They own that completely. And it's just learning or retraining yourself to sort of detach yourself from that element, which you need to. If your business is going to grow, you can't be technical. You have to step back and be managerial because you have that vision, you have that drive. So yeah, it's been difficult to make that transition, I have to say. But yeah, it's working well.
Is there an ice cream van going past your window?
Yeah, there was. It's just gone outside my
I was
my
like,
house.
I know that music. Because I also really want to find out about how you figured out the logistics for the business, because you said at the beginning it was you delivering. I don't know if you were on a bike or in your car, but you were off delivering all around London. How did you put an end to that model, and how are you getting, because you're getting donuts all over the UK, so how are you getting them from your kitchen to where they need to go?
That was a real nightmare, because it's you there's several things that you're dealing with. You're dealing with the fact that you're putting something out there for people to judge you, good or bad, against. It's kind of your reputation. And I've never been that person to sort of step into the limelight like that, step forward and say, hey, I'll be the one to do that. I've always been quite reluctant. Hence why I had an ultimatum before I started selling to people outside my family. So I just did what I thought was the easiest thing to do. I'd go out and deliver them to all these people, to all these customers, and it just took all day. I was exhausted at the end of the day. I wouldn't eat because I'd be trying to get to people in a sort of a decent amount of time. You'd have these toppings that weren't vegan at the time. It was the height of summer. Some of them would be like completely melted. I'd just be like, apologise and I'm really sorry. So I just could not do that anymore. It's like, how do I get this product? It's a short shelf life, which is difficult to say. A short shelf life. And I wanted to get it to all these people. Like I did the donut rally. I drove to Bristol. It was a nightmare. Again, Caribbean jeans. I was supposed to be in Reading at 10. I think I left my house at 9:30. There's no way I'm getting to Reading for 10. Not even if I was Superman. So just all these trials that I'd done subconsciously, and it just didn't work. So I guess in desperation, you just kind of search, like, well, what else can I do? What are my options? That's when I started looking into couriers. And at that time, a lot of couriers would not take anything that was perishable, just because they couldn't guarantee that they would get them there on time. So the first courier I went with, I won't name any names, but I was like so excited. I remember I was at work, I was in the meeting room. Like the donuts had gone out the day before, and I thought it was next day delivery, and I started getting all these emails on my my Gmail, like, what's happened to the donut? I've not received the donuts. And I was like, what? And I looked, and it was like a 3 to 4 day delivery or something like that. So I think it was about 15 orders, but still, it's the time that's gone into making that, the anxiety. Once you give them to the guy who looks like he's a box thrower. Like, he would just sling him in the back. Like, he looked like, the way he banged down my door, like he was the police. He looked like he was like, he wasn't going to take care of them. And, you try and get that across to people. But this is just one person in that cog. He's going to give it to the depot. Then it's going to get transferred to another depot. Then it's going to go, do you know what I mean? So there was that anxiety as well. So it was a lot of trial and error. But again, I think what made it easier is that I would keep people informed. And I guess that's a project management skill, communication, right? Well, it's just a life skill, communication. You communicate anything to anyone. This is what I'm trying to do. This is what my endeavour is. And if it works, great. If it doesn't, this is what's happened. This is the reasons why it's happened. And this is what I'm going to do to try and fix it. And in most cases, like that particular incident, it was just, I just refunded everyone, I think. And then just went back to the drawing board. I need to find someone who can deliver overnight. And I found one company, stuck with them for maybe 4 years, and then I've just transferred now. I'm with DHL at the moment. And the service, to be fair, bearing in mind that it's COVID, people are ordering everything online. And, we've just gone through the end of the year as well. So you've had Christmas orders, which is inherently crazy, like ridiculous. Like, my postman looks like the Incredible Hulk by the end of Christmas. His postal sack is just getting so much bigger every day. They've done pretty well through that period, and like now it's been phenomenal going forward. So it's just not being afraid to try, not being afraid to sort of put your neck out, put your neck on the line, as it were. But then keeping people informed as well, that's always worked. Because I genuinely don't know that this is going to work. I hope on paper it should work. But whereas, I didn't read the small print with the first courier. It's not a next day delivery, it's a 3 to 4 delivery. Just helping people to understand that, and just managing their expectations as well. So that was a really, really difficult. But I guess as the business has grown, it's opened me up to more options. Because it's not just, 1 or 2 deliveries a week. This is like a serious business now. You're taking like 100 plus orders a week. So it's good for them. It's good for me. I get a better service. I get a cheaper price as well. And another sort of obstacle was just getting the donuts to people in a decent condition. So obviously it's a perishable item. They're photogenic. Yeah. Box. Some of them, I don't know what happened. And that's probably been the biggest challenge. Getting them to people in a decent state. You send them out and they're pristine. Like when my courier from DHL came to pick them up, I took him in the house, opened the box and showed him what was inside. I said, look, this is what we're sending. Told him a little bit about the story. Again, taking him on that journey. He was interested. He had his own story about why he'd gone into DHL driver. He used to be a stockbroker, was traveling the world. COVID, had to come back. So have a conversation with people, get to know them a little bit. And then, so he takes great care with them now until he gets out of sight. I don't know what he does around the corner, but I like to think he takes great care of them until he gets to the depot. So he understands, what's in them as well. Labeling them up as much as possible. And last year, I invested in like inserts to put inside the box, and it changed the ordering method as well. The way I sold the donuts online, like some of the products. So having these inserts has been a complete game changer for me. Like I can send them out now, and I'm not worried at all. I know they will get there in fairly decent condition every time. There may be the odd one. Which is you have to expect, you have to allow. It's not going to be 100% all the time. But then, there's means that we do to resolve that, whether it's a refund or we'll send out another box. You don't worry about it as a customer. That's not for you to worry about. We'll take care of that. But yeah, getting those inserts, I mean, they cost as much as the actual donut box themselves. So for me, from a cost perspective, that's a big deal. That's, eating away at the profit margin. But I shared that with people. I said, look, we've bought these. This is like really, it's just basic. It's 3 bits of card that slot together. But made like this really rubbish video. Really, I made the music with my mouth. It was that kind of video. It was terrible. And put it together, put it on social media, and I've got so much response from it. And I said, look, it costs as much, but that's what I'm willing to do. I want you to be satisfied with it. The donuts, they're not cheap donuts. And I want you to be satisfied with what you're getting, especially in COVID. People are losing their jobs, or they're uncertain about their future. They've had to deal with maybe a loss in their family. Just everyone from a mental health point of view, it's a really, really difficult time. The last thing I want them to worry about is ordering a box of donuts and it ending up all mashed by the time it gets to the house. So that was a game changer for me, getting those inserts in and getting a courier that sort of understands what we're dealing with, what we're selling, and just providing a decent service as well. But those 2 things are ticked off the list, thankfully.
And you mentioned that 2020 was a hard year because you were so busy, and obviously that's because you were working on your own for a lot of it. But was there also a kind of big uptick in orders? Because you hear about the lipstick effect, when like everything, like there's a recession and people cut back on all their luxuries, but they still want to buy a lipstick. Do they still want to buy a donut? Is that what happened? Yeah. I mean, I was actually close to burning out at the start of 2020. So when Boris came, March the 23rd announcement, I was like, whoa, yes, finally, I'm going to get some downtime and just be able to chill. But it didn't even take a week, maybe 4 or 5 days.
And it is the lipstick effect, word of mouth, social media. So people are on their social media more because they're not at work. People are at home, they can't leave their house. They've got more time. They're in to accept deliveries and what have you. And it just kind of snowballed. And again, it's a niche product. It appeals to vegans. It appeals to people who are celiac, who haven't got a choice. People who are gluten intolerant. It appeals to people who can't have dairy, who can't have eggs. But it's still quite a niche market. And they talk. They all know one another on social media. They all follow one another on social media. And because I've had that social media presence, that really helped to sort of amplify the fact that these were now available and you could get them delivered to your house in lockdown. Like, what? Yes, I'm definitely ordering that. And I was just shocked. I just remember the orders just kept coming in and coming in and coming in and coming in. And it got to a stage where I had like a backlog of about 200 orders. And I was still delivering my old business model, which I would deliver I think I would bake every Thursday and deliver on Friday. And that was just the one day that I could offer it a week. That's all that I could manage. And I was like, no, I've got to change it. And I remember actually, I had an order from Selfridges, a massive order from Selfridges. And then it was on the news. Like someone DM'd me actually. I'm so sorry to hear about Selfridges. Like, what are you talking about? I looked at BBC News, like Selfridges to close its doors because of lockdown. And I was like, I've got this order. Like, do you still want it? They're like, no, we'll hold fire on the orders. And I was like, what am I going to do with all these donuts? I was like, oh, just sell them. So I did like a lucky dip. So I choose you just order this box. It was cheaper than all the rest. I choose the flavour. You just have to tell me if you had a nut allergy or not, I think, and send them out. And they just flew. They sold out in like less than an hour. It was just crazy. And I think that helped. The fact that it was a lockdown helped. So people wanted something to perk themselves up, like a treat for themselves, bribe their kids to do their schoolwork, sending gifts to people. And then it was that. And then it was sort of the Black Lives Matter movement. The awful circumstances around George Floyd, like his death. And then people recognising the impact that had in the black community, the impact that had with everybody else as well. And just what resulted from that. So it was at that time, I just decided, because I'd never really been, and you can see it through my feed. Occasionally I'll step out from behind the camera, but it's just purely donuts or maybe a bit of behind the scenes. And it was, there's another coffee maker, and we're very, very similar. His name's Ali. He runs Balance Cafe in Brixton, and he's owns Perception Coffee as well. And I remember meeting him for the first time. I just assumed Ali, I thought it was a woman. So I went to Balance to give him donuts. I was going to sell it. He wanted me to sell it in his coffee shop. And it was a black guy. And so we was chatting, we was vibing, like, how did you get into it? And his story was almost identical to mine, but just in coffee. And for us, it was all about, we just want to be professional. We just want to be seen as a professional outfit. We want to have, high standards that we maintain, and we're recognised for that. And the fact that I was dealing with another black guy was the icing on the cake. But, we both had those standards. We both were trying to achieve a certain level. That was always the icing on the cake. And that's how I chose to sort of do my business. But when that happened, I chose to step out from behind the camera. And just say, look, I've had a lot of new followers, because a lot of people were talking. They knew it was a black-owned business. But I've had a lot of new followers recently. This is who I am. This is sort of how I run the business. It's just me at the moment. This is what we do. And just a little sort of almost glimpse of the person behind Borough 22. And that helped as well. To promote the business. So I think those three things combined really just kept those orders coming in. It almost killed me. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, the flip side being you had too many orders coming in.
Yeah.
How did it feel to be more of a focus for the brand, because it's a big step when you let yourself be the face of the company you've created, and you're a lot more vulnerable when you do that. Even though I know you've had amazing communication with your customers and they kind of know who you are, but then being the face is sort of...
Yeah, it is.
It's quite a big deal.
And like I said, I've always been conscious that I wanted the products to speak for themselves. So yeah, it was. And I ummed and ahed about it, like, for a long time. Like, I thought about doing it the night before. I even subconsciously dreamt about it. Like, I'd done that post and I'd sent it off. And then when I got up in the morning, I was like, shall I do it? Shan't I do it? Because I didn't want it to be capitalizing of something awful that happened to someone. I didn't want it to be about that at all. But people wanted to know. They wanted to support black businesses. They wanted to buy from black-owned businesses. So it was information that people wanted to have. And yeah, it was, I don't know, so people have recognized me, like, from social media. They have recognized me. I've got a neighbour, actually. She's a baker. She lives around the corner. I thought she was going to kidnap me. She just came up in her car, pulled the window down, like, I was like, are you Borough 22? And I was like, I didn't know whether to drop everything and just run and just not look back, like Terminator 2. But yeah, so it's happened occasionally. People who follow me or have been active followers who would recognise me and what have you. But there's not been that much different. I've got a lot more people who follow me now from that. Like, it went up a few thousand around that time, definitely. But I think it's been an opportunity, actually, for me to just engage with more people in the same vein that I'd always been doing. So even though there's more people that have come on board, still being personable, still being approachable with people. Like, the amount of voice notes I've got on my Instagram DMs, just replying to people's questions, comments, and then, taking that information as well and allowing it to shape the business. There's been advantages. I don't think there's been any disadvantages. You're always going to get people who perhaps don't like the product for whatever reason. It just doesn't sit well with them. But even the way you deal with them, it's not taking it personal or feel like they've got some personal vendetta against you. It's just recognising the fact that that's someone who doesn't like it. And just handling that situation in a way that makes them still walk away and feel good about things. They don't feel bad about anything at all, trying to be conscious of that as well. So I don't feel like it's had any disadvantages at all. For me, it's just had that impact on exposing me to more people.
No, that's an amazing story. And Ryan, I've just realised that I've kept you for ages and I could so easily keep you for another hour because you are so great to chat to and this story is so amazing. But I think I better let you get back to your donuts.
No, that's all right.
They're all going to bake themselves. But Ryan, you've been amazing and this story is incredible and I feel like we are just speaking to you at the beginning. It feels like we're going to hear about Borough 22 and there's going to, 5 years time, there's going to be a global franchise. You're going to be selling them in Vegas.
It's funny, it's like so this October will be 7 years, but it does feel like that. Like this year or this, the change that we've made, it just feels like it's like now we're starting. Now we're about to sort of take off kind of thing. It's really, really strange, but it's nice. I'm excited again. About the business, which is good. I'm glad, I've got that feeling, I've got that buzz, I've got that drive. But yeah, it's been nice. I didn't, to be fair, I haven't even looked at the time. It's just been nice to chat to someone about it. And thanks for, the research and the questions as well. I've had interviews with people who it's just like the generic stuff, but you've really gone deep down in there. So I really appreciate that.
Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to hit the like button or leave a comment so we know you enjoyed the show. To never miss an episode, subscribe. Also, you can find so much more advice, practical downloads and related info over at the Sage Advice blog at sage.com/blog. Thanks again and hope to see you soon.